Are you ready to hear an inspirational hero tale about one of our four-legged friends? My name is Kim, and this is Harry Hero Tales. Welcome to episode 9 of Harry Hero Tales, Animals to the Rescue. I'm your host, Kim Hagel. Today I've got another military hero for you, and while she may be pint-sized compared to our first episode's big hero, Sergeant Reckless, this hero is truly a huge hero to the United States, the Army, and to this podcast. And you may not be aware of a highly valued initiative that our hero was documented as being the first officially to achieve. Today's episode is about a hero named Smoky. It begins after the start of World War II in 1943, when she was believed to have been born. Her exact origins are not known because she was found in a New Guinea jungle foxhole by an American soldier. First, a brief backstory on the New Guinea World War II campaign. It began in 1942 when the then Empire of Japan invaded in January of that year. Now, anyone who knows their history will recognize that this is just 1 month after the Imperial Navy of Japan attacked the United States Navy at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The Allies at this time during World War II were led by Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States. But the makeup of troops in various war zones did differ. The war in the Pacific, and specifically the New Guinea operation, was made up of troops from Australia, along with the Dutch and the United States. So while stationed near Nasdaq, New Guinea, an American soldier found a tiny little Yorkie who was trapped in a foxhole in February 1944. She appeared nearly fully grown, although she weighed only 4 pounds and stood at a whopping 7 inches tall. Initially, the soldiers assumed that she belonged to the Japanese that they were fighting. But in interacting with her in various inventive ways, such as bringing her to a nearby Japanese prisoner of war camp, they realized she did not respond to Japanese or English. I found in a few books and in reports that indicate that Smoky may have actually been bartered or borrowed through the hands of a few American soldiers after she was brought to the camp. But while still in the shadow of the New Guinea campaign, she eventually landed with who would turn out to be her forever person and the one who would change both of their lives forever. Corporal William A. Wynn, a native of Cleveland, Ohio, shout out to my cousins in Cleveland, purchased Little Smoky from whoever had Smoky last in the barter chain for $2 Australian, which at the time was worth about $6.44 in US dollars. And in today's money, that would be about $111.53. For anyone who has ever researched the cost to buy a Yorkie puppy, this is about 10% of what you'd pay, and that's at the low end, to buy a Yorkie puppy today. Corporal Wynn got a great deal, but by the end of this story, you'll see that he also got a great deal more than he expected. From this point on, Wynn traveled with Smoky everywhere. Wynn, who had enlisted in the Army in January 1943, served for a total of 24 months in the Pacific and Far Eastern fronts with the 26th Photo Recon Squadron and the 6th Photo Recon Group. Now, my dad was a Force Recon Marine, back in the early 1960s. He was involved in the Bay of Pigs and was in the area of Vietnam, I think. He didn't talk about it too much or about what being a recon Marine meant. I'd heard some stories from my older brother that in Vietnam, my dad would crawl in tunnels. Now, from what I've heard, this is sometimes described as a tunnel rat. I can't be sure how true that really is because my dad refused to discuss it, at least with me. But I understood that recon meant a small reconnaissance group that moved ahead of troops to learn enemy locations, formations, weapons, and other critical pre strike details. I also knew that recon meant dangerous. So while Corporal Wynne was a photographer during World War II, it was in this dangerous pursuit of key photos needed for allies to plan each movement of troops in the New Guinea operation. He is documented as flying 13 air and sea rescues and photo reconnaissance mission. And if you know anything about the results, his information was highly effective. The Allies are described in several documentaries and articles I found as, quote, delivering a crushing defeat on Japan and with heavy losses for the Empire of Japan, end quote. And for these missions, at least for those after he purchased Little Smoky, a tiny Yorkie Terrier went along for the ride. Corporal Wynne is quoted as saying that Smoky served in the South Pacific with the 5th Air Force, 26th Photo Reconnaissance Squadron, and flew 12 air and sea rescues and photo reconnaissance missions. She traveled with Wynne and was often secured during these missions within a soldier's backpack near machine guns on board the plane. Ultimately, from her time with Wynne and service in World War II, Smoky was awarded 8 battle stars. The tiny soldier survived 150 air raids as well as a typhoon, which is the Pacific term for hurricane. Wynne shared his tent, his bed, and blanket, along with his rations of food and the occasional treat, which is described as a can of Spam, to prep her in case they needed to ever parachute out of an airplane. Wynne set up a test for her to parachute from a tree at 30 feet using a special chute he made just for her. Now, I've seen photos, and it appears to me that she may have her tail tucked just a little bit, but she's got her paws wide out and is clearly prepped to land. Wynne also credits her with saving his life and warning him of the danger of incoming mortar shells while on a transport ship, then ultimately helping to guide him to safety around the fire that struck soldiers that were around him. There was some downtime for Wynne and Smoky as well, and he used this time very effectively. You see, Wynne started teaching Smoky some tricks, and this would change their lives and may have actually affected your life in ways that Wynne did not see coming at that time. The bond that Wynne developed with Smoky paid off in other ways during their time in the Army. At one point in the war, a group that manages communications and transmissions of information, known in the Army as the Signal Corps, well, they needed to run a wire through a long 70-foot pipe. And that pipe was skinny at only 8 inches in diameter. Now, at only 7 inches tall, guess who could fit in it? Even though Little Smoky was not too keen on it and early on turned back after initially entering the pipe, Smoky did successfully pull the wire, which had been attached by a rope to her collar, all the way through as the result of moving towards and finally running at Corporal Wynne, who was at the other end. Now, a quote later, Wynne said, "The dust was rising from the shuffle of her paws, and I could no longer see her. I called and I pleaded, not knowing for certain whether she was coming out or not. She broke into a run, and we were so happy at Smokey's success that we patted and praised her for a full 5 minutes. This work, this crawling in the dark alone in a tunnel of pipe, saved crewmen a lot of moving around and construction over what probably would have been days, along with keeping the fighters and reconnaissance planes operational. They may have been grounded for days or weeks during construction. So this may have been a small job, but it resolved a huge problem in just under 15 minutes. Smokey was a hero to those soldiers that day, but she did even more work, amazing work, within the field of troop comfort. So while still in the Pacific, and according to dogsinTherapy.com website, Wynn was in the hospital recovering in the Philippines and was there for several days. Smokey was brought to the hospital by his army pals to cheer Wynn up. But she didn't just cheer him up. She also lifted the spirits of many of the other wounded soldiers around Wynn. This information made its way to the commanding officer of the hospital, Dr. Charles Mayo. Yep, you heard that right. That Mayo. He realized this little Yorkie could do something special, and he ultimately decided to take Smokey with him on several rounds within the hospital. From this point on, Smokey visited field hospitals to perform, cuddle, and with just her presence, cheer up her wounded and suffering comrades. The first officially documented visit for this specific purpose was in July 1944 at the 233rd Station Hospital in New Guinea. Guided by field nurses, Smokey made her way to various wards and areas of the hospital to see incoming casualties from the Biak Island invasion. Her visit did more than just a simple making an appearance. But at first, a little clarification on the situation our hero Smokey was facing when she arrived to greet these Biak Island battle soldiers. Biak Island, which is currently a part of Indonesia, at that time in 1944 was occupied by Japan and was a strategic location for both sides of the war. It held several great locations for landings, which could then support resupplying for air attacks. The Japanese, in fact, had built 3 airfields on it, and it was also very close to the Philippine Islands, which was a key push for the Allies in the Pacific War operation. The battle took about 10 days, with the Allies prevailing, and there were significant casualties on both sides. I won't cover the details, but I can tell you I found articles and references that show that this battle was horrendous. And even more than that, I found an article on Warfare History Network that was published in 2014 titled The Battle of Biak, a terrifying glimpse into the soul of mankind. Bottom line, it was a horrific battle, and Allied soldiers who survived saw things they likely never were able to forget or unsee during their lifetime. So to see a little Yorkie who's serving in the army and who can do tricks and is also adorably cute, well, this did bring some joy and comfort to those brought to these field hospitals after suffering such a battle. I found one article referencing a soldier who had been injured, and I'm not exactly sure where or what happened during the battle to this soldier. It could have been the Biak Island, but this soldier had refused and refused for a while to speak a single word to hospital staff, including his doctors, nurses, anyone, for weeks, maybe even months. When little Smokey appeared for a visit, guess what? This soldier spoke for the first time. This generated a waterfall of tears from the nurses and staff. It was a small thing, the willingness to speak. but that was the start of a long road to healing for this soldier. And it was also a very important start on that road. And Smokey did that. 4 months after VE Day, when Germany unconditionally surrendered to the Allies in May 1945, World War II officially ended in the Pacific when Japan surrendered on September 2nd, 1945, on the battleship USS Missouri. Wynne was going home, and he was bringing home the smallest little hero with him. Given that Wynne was a photographer, there are some fantastic photos of Smokey while it's still in New Guinea. And many of these and other photos were published upon Wynne's return to his Cleveland, Ohio home. The Cleveland Press published a page one story on December 7th, 1945. Now, again, if you know your history, this date is exactly 4 years after the attack on Pearl Harbor. She and Wynne began to steal the hearts of everyone and became a national sensation. After that, for more than 10 years, Smokey and Wynne would travel around where Wynne would introduce the pint-sized heroine and showcase her talents to the veteran hospitals, therefore continuing her therapy work, on TV shows, and eventually did make it to Hollywood. She appeared on 42 live television shows, and according to Wikipedia, she did so without ever repeating a single trick. One amazing skill she demonstrated: walking a tightrope blindfolded. Sadly, little Smokey died on February 21st, 1954, at the age of 14. Wynne and his family buried her in Lakewood, Ohio, in a Cleveland metro park, and she was inside a World War II .30 caliber ammo box. There is a lovely monument there today, and it shows that it was provided by Susan Bahari in 2005. It depicts the most famous photo of Little Smokey. This is the one where she is nestled inside the helmet of an Army soldier. Smokey has been honored in other ways as well. The Ohio Veterinary Medicine Association in Columbus, Ohio, has named Smokey the #1 dog hero within their Animal Hall of Fame. The annual Yorkshire Terrier National Rescue delivers annually the Rescues of the Year and calls it the Smokey Award in honor of our hero. And most recently, Smokey was honored by the Philippine Post, which is another name for the Philippine Post Office, with her very own stamp in 2024. Officially, Smokey has been identified by Animal Planet as the first recorded therapy dog as a result of their investigation and finding the documented visit she made in New Guinea in 1944. Remember, I said at the beginning that she initiated a highly valued initiative that we enjoy today? Well, this is it. Can you imagine a world without therapy dogs or therapy animals? I'm glad we don't have to. Because while she was pint-sized, her big heart did a lot of good in its lifetime. And little Smokey is still a hero. And she brought to us what is still today an impactful legacy of healing. If you'd like to learn more about Little Smokey or Bill Wynne, I highly recommend the book Yorkie Doodle Dandy. It was published in 1996 and is still available today. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Wynne not that long ago. He died at the age of 99 in 2021. Little Smokey is still a hero, and her legacy and the legacy of Bill Wynne brings us important healing every day. While that only touches the surface of this amazing hairy hero, we have to leave it there for this episode. If you know of a great hairy hero tale and would like to hear it on this podcast, email us at hairyherotales@gmail.com. For more information on this program, visit our website, www.hairyherotales.com. That's TAILS.com. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is a Southpaw Productions podcast, edited, produced, and hosted by me, Kim Hagel. Opening and closing music provided by Mary Selvage. You can follow her and find out her show schedule at Selvage613 on Instagram and check out her complete catalog of music available on Spotify, Apple Music, and more. And remember, there are four-legged heroes all around us. Who knows, you might even adopt one. I've adopted many little heroes from some amazing rescue organizations, and I've featured two on my website: the All American Dachshund Rescue and the French Bulldog Rescue Network. If you're looking to rescue your next hero or would like to help with transport or financial support, I highly recommend both of these organizations. Neither are affiliated with this program in any way, but they both have my sincere gratitude and support. Thank you to all of the heroes of the world, and a special shout out to Hairy Heroes everywhere.